Part 1. Introduction. There is a moment, a very specific kind, where you feel something shift inside you. A text message, a tone of voice, a glance, a small mistake, a tiny change in someone's energy. Nothing dramatic, nothing catastrophic, just subtle. Yet for some reason, it hits you deeper than it should. Your chest tightens, your mind sharpens. Something inside you whispers, something's wrong. And before you can stop it, your thoughts begin spinning. You replay the moment. You analyze every detail. You try to predict what's coming next. You imagine scenarios that become more painful every second. Most people don't even notice this pattern. But you've felt it. You know the sensation of losing control on the inside while appearing calm on the outside. The Stoics had a name for this moment. They called it the first impression. The instant where your mind creates meaning before you even realize it. And they believed that this is where all unnecessary suffering begins. Not in the event, not in the world, not in other people, but in the meaning your mind adds, automatically and often incorrectly. Today, we're going to walk into that gap, the space between what happens and what you think it means. A space so small most people never see it, but powerful enough to transform how you experience life, conflict, relationships, and yourself. This isn't just a philosophy lesson. This is the architecture of your inner world, revealed by people who figured it out 2,000 years before modern psychology even existed. So let's step into it. Let's slow down the machinery of your mind. Let's expose the hidden mechanism that has been running your emotional life in the background. Because once you see it, you can never unsee it. And once you understand it, everything, your reactions, your peace, your relationships, your self-worth, becomes something you can finally control. This is where the transformation begins. Part 2. If you step back for a moment and look at human history not through dates and events but through the emotional lives of people, you'll notice something remarkable. The human mind has always been loud. Even in societies without buzzing phones, without markets that never sleep, without the constant stream of comparison and stimulation, people still wrestled with the same storms we face today. The Romans had no word for anxiety in the modern psychological sense, but they lived it. They felt it in the Senate chambers, on the battlefields, in their homes, and in the quiet hours before dawn. The Stoics understood this centuries ago. Their world was chaotic, not digitally loud, but politically volatile, economically fragile, and socially demanding. A single wrong alliance could cost you your property. A shift in the emperor's mood could take your life. They lived under conditions where clarity wasn't a luxury, it was survival. That's why they obsessed over the mind. Not because they were philosophers with too much spare time, but because they recognized a truth we often miss. If you don't learn to master your thoughts will master you. Modern psychology echoes this. Cognitive scientists now tell us that the brain naturally fixates on threats, rehearses problems, and builds mental loops as a primitive survival mechanism. What we call overthinking is simply the mind trying to protect us, just in a world completely different from the one it was built for. You're not weak for struggling. You're human for struggling. Your mind evolved to fear shadows, but now it fears emails. It evolved to scan the horizon for predators, but now it scans social media for validation. It evolved to replay dangerous moments to keep you alive, but now it replays conversations that never endangered you in the first place. So when your mind becomes cluttered, when it replays, rewinds, rehearses, and catastrophizes, it's not malfunctioning. It's overperforming. The Stoics approached this not by suppressing the mind, but by educating it. Marcus Aurelius wrote in his private journal, "Never meant for the public." The mind adapts and converts to its own purposes the obstacles to our action. He wasn't describing a mystical power. He was describing a mental shift. Stop believing every thought. Start observing the intention behind the thought. Because underneath every mental spiral is a pattern. Underneath the pattern is a fear. And underneath the fear is a misunderstanding. For example, the fear of not being enough usually hides an old memory of being judged. The fear of being abandoned often comes from a childhood wound. The fear of failure is almost always a fear of shame, not the failure itself. When you look at thoughts this way, something changes. They stop feeling like truths and start feeling like artifacts, pieces of your personal history shaped by conditions that may no longer exist. This is why Stoics like Epictetus focused relentlessly on distinguishing between what we control and what we merely feel. To them, the mind wasn't a battlefield you conquer, but a map you learn to read. And once you understand the terrain, you navigate it with far more clarity. Modern neuroscience agrees. Awareness, simple, calm awareness, is enough to weaken the emotional charge of a thought. When you observe something, you move from being inside the storm to standing outside of it. You shift from being the actor in the scene to being the viewer watching the performance. And the performer loses power the moment you stop believing the script. This is where mental clarity begins, not with force, not with perfection, but with understanding. With the willingness to say, I see the thought, I feel the discomfort, but I don't have to become either. The Stoics didn't ask people to silence their minds, they asked them to see their minds. And once you see something clearly, you're no longer controlled by it. You respond instead of react. You choose instead of obey. You navigate instead of drown. This is why clearing your mind is not about eliminating thoughts. It's about reorganizing your relationship with them. It's about learning the emotional physics of the inner world, the cause and effect of your own mental patterns. Because once you understand the storm, you're no longer afraid of it. You become the one who walks through it with steady steps, not because the storm is gone, but because you finally understand the wind. Part 3. Here is where the Stoics hold up the mirror, and what you see inside it is not the world, not other people, not fate, but your own internal mechanism that keeps generating unnecessary suffering. Most people think their emotional pain comes from what happened. The Stoics disagree, radically. They say your pain comes from the story you attach to what happened. Not the event, not the person, not the words, the interpretation. And they go even further. They show that your brain is using the same ancient mechanism that once protected you from tigers and enemies, now turned against you in everyday life. This is the moment where the ancient text suddenly becomes modern neuroscience. The Stoic reveal 1. The event is neutral. You are the one assigning meaning. Epictetus said the foundation of suffering is simple. Men are disturbed not by things, but by the views which they take of them. This isn't philosophy, this is a diagnostic. If someone ignores your message, the event is neutral. But your mind instantly builds meaning. They don't respect me. I must have done something wrong. Maybe they don't like me anymore. I'm being humiliated. Your mind adds the insult. Your mind invents the attack. Your mind creates the wound that never happened. The Stoics saw this 2,000 years before psychology gave it a name. The Stoic reveal 2. Automatically, your mind focuses on threat. Marcus Aurelius observed that the mind has a primitive tendency. It grabs the worst possibility first. Why? Because the ancient brain was built for survival, not peace. If someone frowned at you 50,000 years ago, it might mean danger. If someone frowns today, it's probably nothing, but your brain reacts the same way. Your body tenses. Your thoughts multiply. Your imagination creates enemies that don't exist. Your ego writes stories that harm you more than any real danger. The Stoics realized the problem isn't the world. It's the autopilot inside you. The Stoic reveal 3. You mistake your assumptions for reality. You don't see events. You interpret them. You don't see the person. You see your fears. You don't see the situation. You see your wounds. Marcus said the mind has a habit of rushing to conclusions. But the Stoic solution is simple. Slow down the story. This moment, slowing down, is where peace begins. Because once the story slows down, you can finally see the separation between what happened versus what your mind added. And most of your suffering lives in the second category. The Stoic reveal 4. The only real danger is losing control of your judgment. From the Stoic view, external events cannot destroy you. But your judgment can. Your overthinking can. Your imagination can. Epictetus said, "You are not harmed until you decide that you are." A harsh message, but empowering. Someone can insult you, but only your agreement with the insult hurts you. Someone can ignore you, but only your story of rejection wounds you. Someone can disappoint you, but only your attachment to expectations breaks you. The Stoics aren't invalidating your feelings. They are exposing the hidden mechanism that generates the feelings. And once you see the mechanism, you finally regain power. The Stoic reveal 5. What you think is instinct is actually training bad training. The Stoics would say, you react quickly because you've been conditioned to. You get offended because you've practiced it. You spiral into overthinking because your brain learned that pattern. Your emotional habits are not you. They are outdated training, and training can be replaced. This is the modern revelation. Your emotional reactions are not fate. They are patterns, and patterns can be rewired. This is where Stoicism stops being philosophy and becomes a mental operating system. Once you identify the mechanism, you can rebuild it. And that is the bridge to the next section. Part 4. Here is where the ancient principle stops being abstract. Because the Stoic mechanism you learned in Part 3, the gap between event and interpretation, is not philosophy. It's what you live through every single day without noticing. Let's bring it into the modern world. 1. Text messages. The silent story machine. Someone doesn't reply for 4 hours. Event. No message. Interpretation. They're ignoring me. They must be losing interest. I said something wrong. They're disrespecting me. Your mind fills the silence with insecurity. But the reality could be anything. They're busy. They're sleeping. Their phone died. They're overwhelmed. They forgot. Your story hurts you more than their silence. Marcus Aurelius would say, remove the judgment, and the delay becomes nothing. Modern translation. Not everything needs a narrative. 2. Relationships. Fighting ghosts. Not people. Your partner looks distant for a moment. Immediately you interpret, they're upset with me. Something is wrong. Did I do something? Your old wounds wake up. Your brain starts protecting itself from a threat that may not exist. Many arguments begin not with reality, but with two people reacting to imagined threats inside their own heads. Stoicism teaches, ask before assuming, observe before reacting. It turns conflict into conversation. 3. Workplace. The email that ruins your day. You receive a short message from your boss. Come see me. That's it. No smiley. No explanation. Instant dread. You imagine, I messed up. I'm in trouble. My job is at risk. You walk into the office already anxious, only to find out they just needed an update on a project. The Stoics would say, your fear came from fiction, not fact. You suffered twice, once in imagination, once unnecessarily in reality. 4. Social media. Comparison as self-attack. You see someone your age posting luxury trips, success, confidence, beauty. You don't just see the image. You see the judgment your mind attaches to it. I'm behind. I'm not enough. I should be doing more. But you forget, you're comparing your real life to their curated highlight reel. Marcus would say, do not let impressions seize you. Modern translation, stop letting illusions punish you. 5. Conflict. Reacting before you think. Someone says something blunt. Before you even process it, your ego interprets it as an attack, a disrespect, a personal judgment. You swing back. They swing harder. The argument escalates. But if you replay the moment, the initial comment wasn't an attack. It was your story turning irritation into insult. Stoicism teaches, the person didn't hurt you. Your interpretation sharpened their words. 6. Friendships. The spiral of overthinking. A friend cancels plans. They sound a bit off. They forget something important. Your mind creates meaning. They don't value me. Maybe they're tired of this friendship. Maybe I'm not important to them. But often, their behavior isn't about you at all. They're dealing with their own battles. Stoicism reminds you, you're not the center of everyone's emotional universe. This realization gives you peace and gives others compassion. 7. Self-talk. The harshest enemy lives inside. You make a mistake. You fail something. You feel insecure. Your mind instantly creates a story. I always mess up. I'm not good enough. Everyone is judging me. This defines me. This is the same mechanism Epictetus warned about, the mind creating a prison out of thin air. Stoicism interrupts the narrative. Is this true? Or just practiced? Because most negative self-talk is nothing more than old stories repeating themselves. Once you challenge them, they lose power. The modern parallel summary. The Stoic mechanism is everywhere in your daily life. Event automatic interpretation emotional spiral. But once you notice the mechanism, you gain the power to slow it down, reinterpret it, choose your response, reclaim your peace. And this leads directly to the final section, the transformation. Part 5 end. Everything we've explored so far leads to this moment. The point where Stoicism stops being a set of ideas and becomes a new identity you step into. Not a tougher version of you. Not a colder version of you. Not a detached, emotionless mask. But a clearer, steadier, more conscious version of you. Someone who is no longer controlled by automatic narratives, ego reactions, and imagined threats. This final part is the shift from reaction to agency, from emotional autopilot to emotional authorship. Let's close the journey. 1. The identity shift, becoming the person who chooses their interpretation. Imagine living like this. Someone ignores your message, you stay calm. Someone disrespects you, you respond with clarity, not ego. Someone disappoints you, you adjust your expectations, not your worth. A conflict appears, you observe first, act second. Something goes wrong, you focus on control, not chaos. This isn't fantasy. It's exactly what the Stoics trained themselves for. Because at the center of Stoicism is one fundamental identity. I am the one who chooses my judgment. Not the world. Not other people. Not the situation. Not emotions. Not fear. Not insecurity. You. The moment you accept this, you stop being a victim of impressions and become the author of your inner world. This is the Stoic identity, not emotionless but intentional. Not passive but grounded. Not rigid but rooted. 2. The closing message: peace is a skill, not a trait. People often think inner peace is something you either have or don't have. The Stoics disagree. Peace is a practice. Presence is a discipline. Clarity is a habit. And habits are built the same way anything is built. One pause. One breath. A one thought examined. A one story questioned. A one reaction replaced with a choice. This is why Stoicism feels modern despite being ancient. It's literally cognitive training before psychology even had a name. The question isn't, how do I stop reacting? The real question is, how do I train myself to notice the moment before I react? Because that moment, that tiny gap, is your entire freedom. Find it, expand it, live inside it. 3. The final Stoic challenge, the 24-hour discipline. For the next 24 hours, take on this Stoic challenge. Do not attach a story to the first impression. That's it. But it will change everything. When something happens, 1. Pause. 2. Identify the raw event. 3. Identify the story your mind is creating. 4. Detach from the story. 5. Choose the interpretation that serves your character, not your fear. Ask yourself, what is the event? And what is my interpretation? If you complete this challenge for one day, you will experience how much emotional chaos in your life is self-created, and how quickly it dissolves when you reclaim your judgment. This practice is the doorway to an identity that is confident without aggression, grounded without apathy, strong without hardness, peaceful without weakness, unbothered without being disconnected. This is what the Stoics wanted for themselves, and for anyone willing to live consciously. The final line: you can't control the world. You can't control other people. You can't control outcomes. But the Stoics would remind you, you can control the story you tell yourself, and that story shapes everything. When you master that, you don't just survive life. You move through it with clarity, dignity, and unshakable presence.